Welcome back, everybody. This time we're talking about 2004 Thomas Jane's The Punisher. And are you ready for this wild one? Because we sure are.
They murdered my family. They thought they murdered me. My actions are not vengeance. No, not vengeance. Punishment.
Welcome back, everybody, to 0 Point Reviews. We got you on the good, the bad, and the ugly of this 2004 The Punisher from Marvel and Lionsgate, and a familiar name is in there, Kevin Feige. So he had a little say in this one before he ever got to the big MCU. Kevin, you ever see this in the theaters before we get to the good, the bad, and the ugly?
I did, man. I saw this when I first moved up here to Oregon. Take care of my family on the cattle ranch. I took a moment to take the drive into town and see this little indie flick, this artisan picture, if you will. It blew my goddamn mind in the pictures, the big screen.
Yeah. And I saw this. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That was awesome.
Yeah, I saw this theaters too, and I thoroughly enjoyed it myself. Now, as an adaptation of The Punisher, we can get into that a little bit as we get into our next segments. But I walked out of the theater thinking, like, that was freaking rad. I'm ready for this sequel. That never came. And Thomas Jane's on record basically saying, like, he absolutely wanted to do a second one. They had a script for one. They had an idea for one, but they were trying to figure out funding because this was a moderate success, but it wasn't like a huge hit. But people generally liked it. But there was also enough people pushing back against the movie at that time. So it's unfortunate it didn't pan out. But in the theater, this was a hell of an experience. And I can tell you for a fact, everybody in my theater enjoyed the shit out of this movie when it hit. And when it was over with, people were cheering. It wasn't standing applause. It wasn't anything like that. But everybody was going, yeah, that's how you kill that bitch. And there was some applause. It was like there was a good vibe, and everybody walking out were basically saying, that was really good. Wasn't as brutal as I would have liked, but hey, that was pretty cool. You know, good comments all around. So it was a good, positive experience in the theater. So much so I went back and saw it 3 more times.
In the theater,
which before that, I hadn't done that for quite some time. Maybe when I was like in high school. But at this point, I was not doing things like that. It's like, hey, I don't have much money and I'm paying student loans and shit. I'm going to go see this movie again. Let's go.
Dude. And that's pretty good. Cause I mean, for one thing, this is a 2-hour flick. Like it's a long picture for a Marvel
doesn't
film.
Feel like it's 2 hours.
No. Because usually with most superhero pictures, you don't get to see your superhero until at least halfway through the picture, little over halfway through. And
especially back then.
Yes. And then you get to see the first glimpse of the costume. You actually get to see a little bit before the first half of the picture. Not much before, but before the first half of the picture. And so you do have this extended period of time of Tom Jane actually looking like Frank Castle from the comic books.
Right. That's something that they definitely picked up from the first movie that was missing with Dolph Lundgren that we just covered. And they had an opening somewhat similar where you got to know him as Frank before you got into the movie. Then it was just all Punisher for the rest of the movie with a little Frank here and there. Yeah. This one, it gave you the opening and it instilled a good character. I mean, hey, why not? We're on the good segment because that's how we always start our reviews here. I've got to say, like, I like the opening and I like how it transitions basically into one of the, they took the idea of not only was Frank's family killed literally in the comics and in the first movie, in this one, they took the word family very literally. They killed everybody in his family. And I remember interviews at the time with everybody, Tom Jane, all the writers and the directors, they were all saying, we had to do something more because you get an impact with the wife and the child, but do you understand the full scope of, he saw his mom die, he saw his dad die, he saw everybody die that he loved. Now that's more, I would argue that's a bit more traumatic and tragic. Like, you can relate maybe to, hey, somebody died, everybody dies. It's like he's got no one left. He's all alone. It's like,
Yeah.
damn, that was wicked.
Well, there's a scene where Rebecca Romaine comes up and tells him, we're really sorry for what, for what happened. And he goes, about what? Just completely oblivious.
Yeah.
And she says, your family. Oh, did you know them? And for a moment, he had this tone in his voice and this look in his face, like he was reaching out to her as if maybe she did know his family, because everything he knew had been cut off. And
Right.
he was desperately hoping maybe there was one person that did know someone from this family that just got extinct, complete genocide of his family.
The Castle Dynasty is over.
Yeah, but no. It
No.
was blinked out. It was amazing.
Well, and you also got an example out of that when he confronted his former boss on the steps in front of a courthouse, and he's announcing basically to everybody that I'm still alive and I'm still here. And he's asking, so what, nothing's been done in the months that I've been gone and recuperating and everything. Nothing's happening. Nobody's been caught. Nobody's in prison. There's been nothing. What's going on? Well, we understand you're upset. And he's like, I get upset like when I'm speeding or when the Yankees win the World Series. My family, my entire family is dead. I don't have a word for how I feel right now. And
Yeah.
that is pitch perfect in my opinion, because how do you respond to that? Like, yeah, I get angry at getting caught speeding, or I get angry, when somebody cuts me off in traffic, or you kill my whole family. Like, I don't know if I'd have a word for that. Because it ain't revenge. He even says that in this movie. Revenge isn't enough. Punishment is what this is. And they use that in the taglines too.
Yeah, like I wouldn't have to be doing this if you weren't behaving so inadequately.
Right.
If you did your job, if you served your function, I wouldn't have to go and treat them this way. I wouldn't have to be the one putting them down.
Yeah.
And the writing for that was incredible. In this scene where he's explaining that, where he's writing out the war journal and he's narrating it, the ADR for that was fucking phenomenal. And then at the very end where he's doing his war journal again and he's explaining, I am punishment, or call me the Punisher. The only thing better than the writing was Tom Jane's delivery.
Yes.
It was fantastic. And there have been plenty of good Punishers, but he personally is my favorite. Like, he always will be, I think.
Yeah, as far as the line of Punishers go, overall, I think this is just personal opinion here, everybody. This isn't truth, justice, and the Punisher way. I like all the Punishers. Thomas Jane's my guy. And I freely admit, I have not seen the Warzone movie. I've seen trailers and I've seen clips. Ray Stevenson looks good. Doesn't mean I know if he actually was good in it or not. He looks the part. I will find out very soon because we're covering that next week. Spoiler alert. But as far as like John Bernthal, like John, fantastic as the Punisher, but he really isn't the Punisher until the end of each season. And season 2 is basically a soft reset, and we go through the whole origin story all over again, basically.
Oh no.
And so I love both seasons, but he's basically Frank Castle for most of season 2 again until the very end. And he assumes the mantle of Punisher. We don't actually truly see the Punisher until the end of each season. So, but Tom Jane, he's my guy. He looked great, and he's probably the best acted Punisher out of the bunch, in my opinion.
I think so. And see, for me, he looks probably the least like Frank Castle. His build is much more normal. He looks like a normal human being. Dolph Lundgren is a giant human being. Ray Stevenson was a giant human being.
Yeah.
They're all large men. John Bernthal, I don't know about him.
When I walked by his booth today at the convention, I kind of looked over and I'm like, yeah, he's about average. Average height.
He's okay.
He's fine.
But Tom Jane captured the spirit of Frank Castle. Like, if there are plenty of scenes from the comic books that made it into this movie that he, like, you feel it. You feel like you're reading those pages from the comics again when you see him delivering those lines or acting out those scenes.
Absolutely. Nothing feels forced at all with him ever. With other Punishers, I've seen the feel like it's being forced a little bit. Like, I have to or under deliver or over deliver. Thomas Jane is like flatline pitch perfect for it. Like, he knows when he needs to bring more emotion and when to tone it back a little bit.
Yes, he does. And he doesn't get comical in this really at all.
Oh, except for some facials when he's fighting the Russian. When he's just like, oh my God, what the hell do I have to do to put this guy fucking down? The bewildered eyes is, and Kevin Nash is freaking great in this. And there's the funny story about he actually got stabbed in the collar and no-sold it. It's like, damn. But like Thomas Jane in their fight scene, you watch his eyes, it's like, what the hell do I gotta do to this guy? Because he just won't stop.
I love where he goes to pull the revolver out and Nash takes the dumbbell and he slams it down on the barrel and bends it like a Looney Tunes pistol.
Yeah.
And Tom Jane just looks at it like, fuck.
And tilts it for the camera so we can all go, oh God. That's the kind of unintentional humor I really enjoy in this movie, because you get it a few times. It's not overdone. It's not overplayed. I always felt like those moments were few and far between, and that was excellent.
Yes. Yeah. And that was another one of the good things about this movie is, you can't have super villains in this type of flick because he's not a superhero. Yeah. But you can have street level super villains like these insane hitmen like the Russian or like Harry Heck.
Yeah.
That are just completely larger than life. One, Nash by nature is larger than life. He's a giant of a man.
He's like 7 foot tall.
Yeah, right. And too sexy. But anyway, but anyway, they were nuts and they gave him a run for his money. I mean, he kills 45 other people, but this guy gives him a run for his money and just completely fucks him up and
destroys the whole apartment too, or whatever flat he's living in.
Yeah, workshop, flat,
elevator.
Bourbon storage facility, whatever,
I was trying to figure out what the hell that building originally was. Like, how does he have like a little elevator in there and nobody else does? But I don't know.
Luck.
Yeah, that's about some of the things in the movie that kind of didn't make a whole lot of sense. But overall, I like the aesthetic of him being in a kind of a rundown building and being kind of like away from everybody. So you could focus on just a few tenants in the building. And, you know, you had Dave, you had Bumbo, and you had Joan. Did I remember right? Yep, Joan, played by Rebecca Romaine State. Rebecca Romaine, I'm going to stop myself from saying the rest of her former last name.
Yeah.
And she was not in this as much as you would have thought she was, actually. And I thought she was in this more than what I remembered, but she actually isn't. She's only in the movie for maybe like 20 minutes total.
Yeah, kind of, huh?
But the scenes are all split out, and they play to her strengths. She's a total babe.
Yes.
So and she's got some talent. I ain't got no problem with her, and she's great as Mystique. She's my Mystique. Sorry, Jen.
She's naked. She's everybody's Mystique. I'm sorry. You know, she was one of the weaker parts for me, and I don't know if it was Rebecca personally or if it was Joan's character.
I would say it was the character, and we can get into that in the bad, because there are a couple things that drag the movie down just a little bit for me.
Well, let me get to that then, because there's a whole bunch to show that's great of the
Anything
flick.
else about the good?
Oh, totally. There's a bunch of shit to show that's great, but
I was gonna say, if you're trying to get us to the bad already, Bo.
no, like hell. Did we even talk about this yet? Bang! This scene here, and I could have saved this for the bad, but like they've got this great scene where he has this standoff with these two guys as he's trying to leave a money laundering bank or what have you.
After he raided them and made it rain, bitches.
And they edited it just well enough to where he shoots them both, and you could see it in this pulled back Sergio Leone style shot where he's supposed to be Clint Eastwood and he just blows away these two guys at the same time. And it's this beautiful, beautiful shot.
Well, and good detail work, because on one of the next scenes, he's still holding up his left hand at the one guy that he isn't quite sure if he had gotten him or not, but he knows he got the guy on the right for sure. So when you're looking at the screen, everybody, the guy on the furthest away from us is the one he keeps the gun on just above the briefcase there. And the other guy, he's absolutely sure he smoked him, but he's got to double check.
Well, apparently Tom Jane went through 7 months of Navy SEAL training.
Yes, he did.
So, like, he has that training. If the guy's not down, don't take the gun off of him. Like, he's still a threat. Like, that's neat that he brought that training to the character, to the film.
Yeah. Like he went through the work, and he actually got himself with the source material. He read the character. He understood the character. He invested into becoming Frank Castle and the Punisher without trying to be the Punisher. So he did his work, and it reflects in the movie, in my opinion. And later on in the Dirty Laundry short he did, where he is, everybody almost universally agrees, is like, that is what you needed for this movie, or at least in this second movie, to kind of fix some things. But I love that Dirty Laundry short, yo.
Yeah, and I love the video game. And the video game,
I gotta play that. God damn.
It's fun.
I swear I had it at one point, but I honestly don't remember if I had it or if I wanted it and never got it, or if I just played a demo at like GameStop or Best Buy. I don't know.
Oh, I don't know. I don't remember if I remember I bought mine. Oh, probably at GameStop, but I don't remember if they had demos up for anything that cool. At least not mine here.
They did.
Bastard. Mine was sucky.
Usually you had to wait or shop around for an hour while somebody was in the middle of trying to beat a game that they've been playing for like 2 hours already. Fuck off.
There's time limits, please.
Yeah. Well, no time limits on this, because one of the good things for me is the runtime. And I know 2 hours, good runtime. Come on, these things should be like less than that. This movie does not feel like it at all, due to the editing and the pacing of this movie. Like, it is tight It is good and it is consistent all the way through. It never really lets you take too much of a breath in between scenes and actions going on screen. And you always feel like Frank is kind of hovering over the movie when he's not on screen. You feel his presence while you're watching stuff. You're like, he's had an influence on the actions that are happening right now without
Yeah.
actually being in the scene. And I feel like that's a very good specter to have over a Punisher movie. Like, you should always feel like he's somewhere and he's kind of manipulating like everything just right. And I love the manipulation in this movie. And so that's why I feel like the runtime spot on. Like, I really dug it.
The manipulation added just that extra cherry on top of the story. I really dug it too.
Ah, God, I love the fucking ending.
Yeah, made you kill your best friend.
Made you
Made
kill
you
your
kill your
wife. I killed both your kids.
your
And now I'm going to... Now it's your turn.
That was awesome as hell. And then the kid, is this it? Where he kills the other son.
Yeah.
This in the video game is Jigsaw. This is where he becomes Jigsaw. The IED doesn't get him. Like it fucks him all up, and he gets Stark Tech and kind of rebuilds himself. But his face is all fajiggered up.
That's what I don't remember from the comic books. Is a little bit about like that. Yeah.
None of that is from the comic books at all. So like that wasn't great, but that happened in the video game.
Okay.
That'll be for another 0 point, because like the video game is great. It's got his narrations all through it. And again, I can't stop saying I love Tom Jane's narrations as the Punisher. He encapsulates that spirit of Frank Castle.
Absolutely. Like you could say like he's had the same level of reverence for Frank Castle and the Punisher that Ryan Reynolds has for like Deadpool. Like when you and Wesley Snipes for Blade. Like these guys really put the work in for these roles. They actually cared. Or even like Carl Urban and Dredd. He never read Dredd until he got cast. He read the damn thing and he's like, I love this. Let's fucking go.
Yes. Yeah. Same here.
Henry Cavill with The Witcher. Like, it's no big shock that when these actors put the work and invest in these, or were already fans to begin with, that they end up doing a pretty damn good job. Big surprise.
And I know no one's going to want to hear this, but Ben Affleck and Daredevil. He likes Daredevil. He did okay. It was the rest of the movie that was caca.
Yeah, I agree with that. Even I do like that movie. You know, it's funny. Actually, when watching this movie in the theater, I remember this when I was watching this movie again. And there's a certain point where I think they could have had a Kingpin reference. And it could have been Michael Clark Duncan. And that would have been fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Because then you could have loosely linked Daredevil and we could have had that. And man, I want Thomas Jane as fucking Punisher in a Deadpool movie, but that's not going to happen, I think.
They could have him in, Deadpool and Wolverine, but I don't think that's going to happen either.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I would like him to be in the Deadpool and Wolverine movie, but I just don't think that's going to happen.
No, because they want to sell Berthnall, and I get that, but I miss him. I like him better. I just do.
Yeah.
I just do.
Now, did you like most of the casting choices that they had?
I loved everybody in here. Everybody was really cool. And
even Travolta was a sneaky little fuck. I wish he was a little more like of a fighter, but he did enough damage to other people. Not Frank, but
not Frank, no. But there is more of a fight here than we usually see between Frank and the main bad guy.
Yes.
At least compared to last week's movie, anyway. That was cool, but anticlimactic all at the same time.
Pretty much.
But I don't know. I like Travolta here. This is probably my second favorite villain role of his, next to Pulp Fiction.
I would say Face Off.
Oh, yeah, I guess so, huh? Yeah, because I guess Pulp Fiction is really not even a villainous role. Well, there he is, but anyway.
He's just a bad guy. in that movie. He's not really a villain,
Yeah.
but in Face Off, he's a straight villain who also then has to play himself as the nice guy for half the movie too. It's so funny. See those two, they literally did study each other. If we ever do Face Off, hey, if you guys want us to do Face Off, I want to see 5 comments down below saying we need to do Face Off, and we'll add it to the rotation.
6, and we'll do the riff tracks also. Yeah, just because.
Make it 10. We'll just do the riff tracks version then.
Ah.
But we'll watch both.
I love the riff tracks of Face Off. It's hysterical. It really is.
Yeah.
It leaves no doubt that it would be funny, but like, you don't consider Face Off a cheesy movie, but it really, really is.
Yeah.
It is. But
it's fun. It's also like time cop as well. And
yes,
just to bring it back around to Punisher, this isn't on that kind of level. It doesn't have It
No.
doesn't bring any sort of cheese like that at all.
No, and that's
So
one of
maybe
the
with
things.
like the Russian a little.
Well, with the Russian, it's like I was saying, it's the cheesy, super villainish, over the top hitman.
Yeah.
Like there has to be something extraordinary about him. He has
His
to
red
be...
and white striped shirt, baby. It's so weird and bizarre. It just kind of sticks out in the middle of this movie that's got like all these dark tones and colors to it.
Yeah, and here's this dude wearing like this weird French Italian type sailor shirt.
Now, if he had a white cap on top, I would have been like, okay, that's a bit much.
He's here from the village.
Who is number one?
Now, did you have a favorite scene in the movie?
Oh God, my favorite scene in the movie would probably, I don't know. I like too many things out of this movie. You got one while I think about it?
I do. There was a scene from this flick that they took out of Punisher Warzone #1, which was a great #1 issue in the early 90s. It was a die-cast cover where it was red, but it had like bullet holes through it that showed through the holes Frank's logo. And when you opened it, it showed the rest of Frank's logo and another cover. It was totally awesome. But in that scene, he captures this Italian guy and he's starting to like beat his ass for information. And they took that right out of the comics and they put it in this movie where he gets this guy named Mickey and he strings him up and he starts telling him that he's going to torture him and he's got a blowtorch, and then he starts giving him all this mental suggestion. You're not going to feel it at first. Your body's not going to understand the difference between pain and cold and this and that. You're going to smell your flesh burning and then you're going to feel cold. And he puts the blowtorch over a steak and then pops the guy right in the back with the popsicle.
And then he sticks it in his mouth after he's done, and then he realizes, shit, you fucker. You didn't do anything to me. It's the whole mental aspect of it all.
Yeah, and the guy's freaking out, screaming, and he just sitting there pecking him in the back with the fucking popsicle.
Yeah. You put it that way, and it kind of, what it makes me think about for my favorite scene is probably at the very end when he's telling Travolta, he's like, one of your sons, I killed one of your sons. Boom. Both of them. And then he gets into his little, I got you to kill your best friend, got you to kill your wife. Now it's your turn. Like, you screwed with me. I've now screwed with you. This is your punishment, buddy. I got you to kill everybody in your family. Just about.
And now I've killed you. But
Yep.
you have to wait for it.
But I have so many other favorite scenes. Even like some of the combat scenes are pretty rad. Like, I love it when he like stabs the guy in the chest and then straight up under the chin is like, oh man, that's brutal. Because it was so smooth and quiet and surreal. It's like, holy shit. Yep,
Just-
that dude got jacked.
And the showing it go through the mouth. Like I remember seeing that in the theater and it giving me goosebumps. It was so grody looking. I was like, oh goodness. It was too cool. I love that. And I love that actor. I cannot remember his name, but he was one of the people that was in this that was totally great. Basically all the henchmen that get killed are famous stuntmen, and they were pretty goddamn fantastic.
Yeah, all of them were really, really good. Like, there were some scenes where they definitely were doing explosions and guys were doing jumps and flips and things. And I'm just like, this is a nice throwback to like 80s action movies, just enough for me. And even having like, say, Roy Schneider in this freaking movie of all people with like little homages to like Jaws floating around. It's like chef's kiss. With things like that too.
What's funny is the house that they had there was actually a porta potty. They just painted it. I was like, well, it looked kind of small, but hey, who am I to judge? It's Florida. They own an island.
I got some swampland to sell you, Kevin.
Some swampland.
Did you at least like the story in this one then?
I did like the story in this one. It took away from the fact that I was very confused that they removed Frank from New York.
Yeah.
That was a big confusion factor for me. So the story was still maintained my interest. Unlike the last Punisher movie, I believed I was watching a Punisher movie because I saw the Punisher on the screen. I didn't think I was watching a Punisher movie because I was told I was watching a Punisher movie. I very much enjoyed the story. I very much enjoyed seeing the character. It worked without insistence, like the first movie had.
Yeah, and I felt like it was a good tone to stay away from trying to do Jigsaw too soon as well, because that's one of his big rivals. So I appreciated that. And yeah, I kind of felt like it was missing the New York scene, but I liked how they did what they did with this movie. And, you know, we're kind of insinuating one thing, and they brought it back to a nice, gritty urban environment. So we still got the Punisher we were looking for. And overall, I really liked the story. Just didn't have anybody as outlandish or wild as, like, say, Jigsaw, which I didn't think it needed, but they were going to do that in the second movie, and we got that in Warzone instead. So, and what they did in Warzone just didn't look quite right to me. Hell, even the Netflix show didn't quite deliver kind of what I was looking for out of Jigsaw. But that said, Kevin, if we're all good with the good, do we need to talk about the bad?
Well, let's see here. The bad. Now, I didn't want to say Harry Heck was a bad character. He's not. I only put Harry there because really there's not a whole lot that's bad to this movie, except for singing. Like, I don't like putting music in the movies. Like, it doesn't always need to be a musical. So, like, the scene where he sings, oh God, what was the song that he was singing?
It's what I'm going to sing at your funeral, boy.
Yeah, in time, your time will be no more.
Right, and which was in some of the trailers too. They would play that in at least one of the longer form trailers.
Yeah, like it wasn't the worst scene, but it was kind of out of place. And then the dinner scene where just before they're setting up the fight with the Russian, that was kind of out of place and really annoying for me. And that's
they didn't actually need that scene, in my opinion. So I'd agree with you on that.
Yeah, that's where I had a problem with Joan's character insisting herself upon Frank.
Right.
Like, he just lost everything. You saw on the news everything that happened to the poor motherfucker. Like, he lost his wife, his kid, everything else. Don't go throwing your HPV ass at him. Just don't. He doesn't need that right now. And then what really bothers me, and she's like, okay, so everyone say what you're thankful for.
The second that started, even in the theater, I think there was a groan of, ugh.
Piss break.
Well, even I was watching this time, and I'm like, I'm going for another beer.
Oh shit, my chair just broke.
Oh, hey,
Not Linda. Anyway,
you've just been punished.
I have been.
Okay.
I'll figure it out.
On a swivel.
Dude, if the swivel falls apart, I'm just going to lose my shit. I'll probably fall off the chair.
That would be pretty funny, though. And I will keep that in this review.
Fantastic.
But to your point, like, I like Joan. I like Rebecca Romaine Stamos. I am going to agree her character got a little too wanting to interject herself into everybody's lives. They could have, if she was going to be that kind of character, they should have started off with that, where she's going over to like Dave's apartment. She's going over to Bumbo's, and she's more integrating with them than those two integrating with her.
Yeah.
And that's the way it felt when you got introduced to everybody, is these two guys, they gravitated towards her because they liked her and they hated her ex-boyfriend. But as she ends up appearing, it's like she says, I find these in every town I go to. I find these one psychotic people. And is it because you're interjecting yourself and you think you can fix them? I don't know. It's kind of a vibe I got. So I don't know what they're aiming for with the script, but that's how it came across on screen. Ultimately, maybe another revision on the script might have helped with Joan's character a little bit, with a little bit more like nuance to it. But I didn't hate her character, but there were some scenes that just felt like, girl, this does not fit this movie. Or even somebody in the editing bay could have been like, we could have cut out this scene. We could have shortened the dinner scene. Like, seriously, have him sit down, say, what are we thankful for? And then he just gets up and he walks out.
Yeah.
Like, just shoot, take those 3 minutes. And I'm not saying you needed to take the 3 minutes out of the film for the runtime. Just take that up because the scene didn't need that much.
Yeah.
And I know they're trying to like show like these people care about them, and because that's going to build towards when Saint's crew shows up to kind of clean up the mess and find where he is and make us like them more. But they're already likable. You don't have to do more. You can do less. It's okay. We don't need super big scenes like that with these characters just to care about them. You could tell, like David, for fuck's sake, the whole scene with Joan and her ex-boyfriend, and he's the first one out there basically saying, dude, stop, leave. Like, you got to stop or I'm going to call the cops. And then he comes up, but at least Dave doesn't like totally back down and run away like Bumbo does. He bolts back into his apartment because he's scared of anything that moves. And ultimately that pays off with then David being confronted with Saint's crew, and he gets the things ripped out, all of his piercings ripped out, and he never said a damn word. And like scenes like that, that's all you need to care, because he has this great line after the thing with the boyfriend where he said, nobody's ever stood up for me before. And as an audience, that simple line made us like him way more than you probably needed to.
Yeah.
Like that by itself is what you need in these kind of movies to make us care about people. Actually say something that means something and connects to the audience. All of us have been through that at one point in our lives. Who's ever stood up for somebody? There's been at least one person in your life that stood up for you once, and you always appreciated it. And in that moment, you liked him, and you really were going to root for Frank to fuck up the Saint family and to beat up the boyfriend with the butterfly knife.
Yeah, they kind of
I've never been able to do that with a butterfly knife.
Oh, once you get the hang of it, it's very simple. It's more twisting it, turning it
I never
sideways.
put the time in to figure it out, so that's on me.
I love butterfly knives, but they're the most impractical things ever. Like they are designed to scare and manipulate fear into somebody. If somebody's flicking one of those around in front of your face, you slap them just like Frank did take
Yep.
it out of their hand, and they are heavy.
Oh yeah, they are.
They're chunk heavy, and it was a deleted scene. He breaks that guy's nose, just totally breaks the bridge of that guy's nose with that knife.
Well, it was in the theatrical version I was watching. He hits him on the face and then he covers his nose. Unless there's more to that scene than in the theatrical version.
There was a little bit more to it, I think, where
Oh, okay.
it shows like a big dent in the bridge of the nose. And he gets kicked down the stairs. Basically, it's a thing. Like everybody
Yeah.
got kicked down the stairs.
Okay, yeah, because I was telling Kevin before we started streaming, like I've been looking for my extended version DVD. For the life of me, I don't know where the hell that thing is. From moving from Wisconsin to Arizona a couple of years ago, I think it's at my dad's house. I never got rid of it, but it ain't here. And I would have loved to have showed it off. It's got this great slipcover, yada, 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 zero pointing on our own damn show. Yeah, I can do it too, everybody. But, I wanted to watch the extended version, but I can't find it anywhere else. And it's like, well, I remember enough. And, of course, they've cut out like the infamous opening sequence. And then you're telling me this. And it's like, shit, I really did want to watch the extended version because it is a better movie.
Yeah. And I didn't realize that Tom Jane didn't like the theatrical release to this movie. Like the 3-hour cut, the 2-hour and 57-minute cut that was originally proposed for Artisan.
The rough cut, yeah.
Yeah, was a much better story. And it didn't have different like dramatic moments that like musical cues that didn't make sense in certain moments.
Yeah.
So like he's gone on record saying that no one has really seen the best version of this movie, and that kind of makes me sad.
It makes me sad too. I'd love to see just call it the Punisher cut.
Kind of, yes. Like, and well, golly, this company no longer exists, so I don't know that they can get all that information.
Artisan? Well, it's Lionsgate. They probably own the rights to the footage, if they even have the still. Like you're talking about like 20 years ago. Like I don't know if they're gonna still have that stored somewhere. I would like to think that they do, but I have no idea.
I don't know. And Disney's not big on their physical media, so who knows what they're gonna do.
I don't think
Which is
the rights
maybe
to this
not-
particular Punisher are with them anymore.
Oh,
Not for this Punisher, and definitely not for Dolph's Punisher.
oh, I would have thought they would have just owned it in general, just cause.
As of let's see, that was 2018 when the 4K for the Punisher came out. I don't have that. I should probably get that. I don't know what it's got for extras though, everybody. Sorry about that, but yeah, I mean, Lionsgate's still got the rights because they're putting out the home video on this, so this would not be Disney.
Weird.
Same thing with like the original Blade movies,
Oh yeah, huh?
because that was New Line.
That's right.
So, but I call that one of the bad things is that we didn't get to see like even the extended cut in the theaters would have been pretty dope, especially the alternate opening with the Iraqi animated scenes, very comic bookish style. I think that would have set up things nicely, but it was like we said with the Dolph Lundgren one, it kind of was hurting the pacing of the movie. It would have taken a minute for us to be like, oh, okay. I mean, I did like it.
Yeah, it was extremely cool. Like if you have not seen it, we definitely recommend checking it out on YouTube, or if you have the DVD, it is on the special features
Yeah.
and totally worth your time.
Hells yeah. Right now, I'm currently looking up the 4K to see if that's in there or not. Oh, yeah, the 4K's got the deleted scenes. It's only like 3 minutes, though. That's not all of them, then.
Yeah, no, probably not.
Yeah, they don't have the... Yep, keep your extended DVDs, then.
Well, then.
That's too bad, but... Let's see. Anything else that was on the bad list, Kevin?
The bad list? No, not really. Everything
Yeah,
else-
I would mostly say it's just kind of like deleted stuff and like a little bit of Joan. Not a lot of Joan, just enough to be like
Joan
"Oh."
crying. Are you gonna die?
Well, he had
Okay.
such great chemistry with his wife. Shit, what was her name again?
Maria.
Maria and his kid Will. Like,
Yeah.
Thomas had great chemistry with those two. You know, came across screen like, you know what? I can actually buy this as a family because she's like, I knew who I was marrying when I married you. Like, I knew you were going to be an undercover cop. And I knew this is what was our life was going to be like. This is your last mission, and now we can go right off and enjoy the world and maybe have another baby.
Baby. All that she wants is another
Thomas
baby.
Jane, baby. So, now, Kevin, unfortunately, we got to talk about the ugly. Or is there even anything with the ugly?
The ugly is everything that was, for me, is everything that had been cut out of this picture.
Oh, that's where you throw that. You put that in the ugly section. I put that in the bad.
The bad. Well, because otherwise, like, there was not a whole lot bad to this picture other than the fact that it's not New York. Again, if you play the video game, that kind of explains that he had to go home finally back to New York. So, I mean, it ties it back together. Otherwise, the only ugliness to me is that there was no sequel to this other than the Dirty Laundry. They tried really hard to make a sequel to this. Never happened. There were plenty of scenes that should have been in this movie that had to get cut for time. There were plenty of things that should have happened in the movie that had to get cut due to budgetary restraints. They got their budget cut in half during filming for whatever reason. Like, they thought they were supposed to have 100 million. They got 50 or something to that effect.
Ridiculous shit.
Yeah, it may not have been as high as $1 million. It might have been like 80 million, and they got toned down to like 50 to 30.
Yeah.
But they had to redact things and tone things down, and they still made a good picture. But just think about how much bigger it could have been had they not had to do that. That was the ugly for me.
You know what? I'll throw that in the ugly too, because quite frankly, you see like what you could do these days with that kind of money and what they've thrown around, even for like the Punisher show on Netflix.
Yeah.
Like, you saw how wild and intense those action scenes were and how much of a brutal killing machine he really could be. This is definitely a little bit of a toned down Punisher in the theatrical version, at least. And if you're just judging the movie based off the theatrical, absolutely, it feels like it's being held back a little bit. You watch the extended version, you feel, okay, that's a little more in line. And ultimately, we did get some cool little death scenes. This is pretty gnarly. I love the pasta water getting thrown in his face and nearly melting his whole face off.
Yeah, that was my initial ugly scene. And then I saw that his neck was turned around backwards here. I'm like, oh shit, I don't think I ever noticed that before.
Oh, and in long shots, his right arm is all folded up behind him very awkwardly too. It was super fucking funny.
I love Mr. Castle. Frank.
Yeah.
I'm okay.
Yeah.
He's not. And he fucking passes out. That was the other ugly thing. John Panay, didn't get a chance to talk about him. Bumpo.
Oh, yeah.
My wife and I were supposed to see him perform stand-up live.
Oh.
And he passed away the week before we were supposed to see him.
Oh, no.
He was such a great stand-up comedian. And
I liked him in the movie. So.
Yeah. I really liked him in this. I liked him because of this, but golly, the more you watch his stand-up, he was a really talented guy. Funnier than what he did in this. So, but anyway.
Yeah. But no, I pretty much agree with you on the budget, the backstage stuff, the politicking going on, whatever was going on behind the scenes. Other ugly I would probably throw out there, like we didn't get a proper sequel outside of Dirty Laundry, the short film. Yeah. Which highly recommend everybody check that out. That thing is dope. They even have Ron Perlman in it, regardless of what you think of him as a person. He plays basically a Sons of Anarchy character, and it's chef's kiss. Love the Dirty Laundry. It proves that they could have done another sequel, and it just makes me mad all over again. But, I would say the movie could stand to get a proper release on physical media in a high def format where you actually get all of the extras. And why not? Let's have that large ass rough cut work print and call it the Punisher cut.
I'd be down for
Let's
that.
see it. Call the director. Hey, let's get Thomas Jane in. Yo, let's commentary this bitch. I'm a Thomas Jane guy. I really liked him in The Expanse for when he was in that show too. I didn't see the last season. I kind of heard bad things about that, so I've held off on that. But I got to admit, as an let's do Final Judgment. I'll hold off on that. But I want to say overall, this is my favorite Punisher movie. Favorite Punisher live action adaptation. And I think Thomas Jane was great. I think he really would have done well with a sequel. Even his wife at the time, Patricia Arquette, said, I will pay for him to be in this movie so he can stay in the fantastic shape that he is in. Because she was thrilled with how he looked when he got in shape for the Punisher. And even he made a comment like, you know, my wife really likes that I'm in this shape. I think she wants another sequel like right away. So he's always had a good sense of humor about this, and he's got a tremendous love for it. Like, if this guy shows up to a convention anywhere near me, I'm gonna want to go to it and have him sign something Punisher related.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
God damn.
Because again, like you said, like to me, he stands like next to Carl Urban with Judge Dredd. He kind of personified this character, even though he may not have looked entirely like the comic book accurate powerhouse, brick, black hair, whatever, brick house, whatever.
Like Ray Stevenson in Warzone. Like I've said, like he looks the best, but I haven't seen enough to know if he actually did all right in the role or not.
So here's what I think. My prediction for this is going to be that I think you're going to like Warzone. I don't think you're going to love Warzone.
Okay.
But I do think you're going to enjoy it.
Yeah. But without Thomas Jane's version of the Punisher, I don't think I would have stuck with any more live action Punisher, period. Like if this was somebody else in this role, I don't think I would have liked this movie. I think Thomas Jane made this work for me.
Fair enough. I could see that. If it wasn't for him, I'd probably would have dug it just for John Travolta as being a bad guy.
Yeah, I would have liked that. But I don't think, I know it sounds like we're just fanboying over this movie, but this movie is really good. And in my opinion, it is very good. So,
well, yeah, it's again, you've got bad guys that are just as powerful as your main character. And I don't mean that in the sense of Howard Saint versus Frank Castle. I mean that in the sense of Tom Jane and John Travolta and Will Patton and everybody. They're all great.
Patton was so good.
The sadist that he was, in the closet sadist.
That was wild, dude.
Dave, little Dave. That gave me the willies.
Final Judgment. What do you guys say that you haven't said yet?
This was the movie that I would have killed for as a kid. Like truly, this is what I always wanted when I was a little kid. Because again, I loved the Punisher. Always wanted to see the amazing shootouts and the big skull. All of it. You got that in this movie in spades. Because like I said, you got it with the classic writing that you'd get from Punisher War Journal, but narrated by Thomas Jane. And you couldn't have gotten anybody else to do a better job at the time, I don't think.
No, I think they put together something really good here. Just wish it could have been just a tick better with a tick more budget, and that they could have really gone full whole hog on if it wasn't on this movie, at least on the sequel.
Yeah.
So I think we got robbed on that, but hey, I appreciate what we did get, and I appreciate that we got Dirty Laundry, and that Thomas Jane is always happy to talk about this movie in general. I think that's still outstanding to this day. So I don't know. What do you think, Kevin? Got anything missing? Any slides you didn't show anybody as a little bonus?
No, I don't think so. Actually, I think I hit everything this time.
Cool.
Nothing nasty. Let me double check. Because I know there's always something like
There were boobs in this movie. If you were paying attention, there were boobs in this movie.
I was not apparently paying attention then.
Wow,
which is
Kevin.
odd.
And one of the strip club scenes.
Oh.
There's a girl that walks right in front of the camera, no top on. So the boobage was there.
The boobage.
But it's also a blink and you miss it.
Fair enough. Fair enough. But no, I dig this flick. I watch this periodically, not often as I should.
That's what I'm thinking after watching this again.
But again, it's also not on Disney Plus. It should be on Disney Plus.
No, it should be on HBO Max.
Whatever.
Or Netflix even. It's Lionsgate. I don't know where half their shit goes. Maybe it's on Tubi and we just don't know.
Maybe.
Well, thank you everybody for tuning in for 2004's The Punisher, starring Thomas Jane and John Travolta. If you guys like this video, please do hit the like button down below. Got any comments, any thoughts, any memories, anything about The Punisher or this movie in particular, or any of them? We want to hear about it. And also, make sure you hit that little bell notification when you subscribe to us down below. Please join us. We have great content. And next week, it'll be my first time watch for Punisher Warzone with Ray Stevenson. And we'll see how well that goes. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Let's get punished on the next one. Make sure you check us out on all of our social media platforms. We got Facebook, Twitter. We are at Suns and Shadows. We're also on Instagram at Suns and Shadows Cast. We are at sunsandshadows.com. Thank you again, everybody, and we'll see you down the road.